Hi everyone, it's Roger and Jeremy here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this episode, we're going to be sharing our thoughts on Rescuers Down Under. So this one was picked by our patrons and YouTube channel members to do a review for, and you can help support the channel by going over there. You can also find us over at whatsondisneyplus.com. So let's jump into it. So Rescuers Down Under, originally released back in 1990 and was the first kind of big sequel that Disney Animation ever did, and we basically see the rescuers head down under to rescue a little boy who can speak to animals, and that's pretty much about it, really. So Jeremy, what did you think of this movie?
From a nostalgia standpoint, I loved it. It was another one we referenced in our Great Mouse Detective episode. I like watched as a kid. This was one I loved as a kid. As an adult, I see some problems with it that I didn't see as a kid, but at the same time, I still love the characters of Bernard and Miss Bianca. But I love Bob Newhart in anything, so that's one of the great things there. I did enjoy, since the character, the guy who voiced Orville, the albatross, in the original Rescuers, had passed on. They got John Candy to play his brother Wilbur. Nice nod to the Wright brothers, first in flight here in the United States. So there were a lot of things about it that were really cool, but I feel like if you know about the Australian geography, that it will take a little bit out of it for you.
Yeah, it definitely did for me. Because I remember this was again another movie that I had not seen before. This was one that had come through. So again, this I'd have been about 10 or 11 when this movie first came out. And I don't really remember the first one very much either. I think I have seen it, but I can't really remember it. And having watched this one back, I'm watching it, and I'm about 5 minutes into it going, yeah, I've not seen this one before. And then there was that thing of the opening scene of just like, now I'm someone that did about 6 months backpacking around Australia. And I know how big Australia is, being in a car, taking 3 days to get from Uluru to the rainforest. And he just walked to the end of his garden and he's like, opens up with Uluru and it looks so fantastic. And I'm going, okay, we're in the outback. And next thing we're in the tropical rainforest. And I'm like, that's like 3 to 4 days drive. We're about 3,000 miles away. Yeah. And he's just walked through the garden. And I'm like, okay. And then we got like, and I'm like, okay, we really are just abandoning all kind of concept of Australia's about the size of a small town at this point. And I'm just going, okay, I'm just go with it, and it's like, it felt a little bit like, let's try and grab as many Australian stereotypes as we possibly could to use in the first 10 seconds. And I was just like, okay, I know where you're going with this. I was like, going, okay, 1990, that might explain it. Apparently this was made after, the Crocodile Dundee movies had done so amazing, and suddenly they deemed that Australia was something that would be interesting for kids to be interested in. And I kind of was like, okay, let's get past this. If you take that away, it's like suddenly this kid can speak to animals. And now they're going, well, was this kid in the first movie? Have we done his? I was like, okay, he can just speak to animals. No mention of why he can or how he can. He can. And then he's obviously trying to help another animal in the pit, and then we end up with this really weird like hunter. It's like a really weird villain. It's like very, yeah. It didn't really kind of grab, and then obviously we had the whole thing of him just wanting to get out of that eagle with the bird, with the I'm like, okay, and it was just a very strange move. And then suddenly we had the two mice come in.
The rescuers.
Because I think there was that thing of like, I suddenly then realized, going, I've never seen these guys before. I haven't seen the original Rescuers, and so therefore I'm like, okay. And then we got them. It's like, okay, and then the mouse gets in, and I think that completely then threw me, was going, I've like, because I think I did spend a few minutes thinking, I've not seen the Rescuers because I don't know who these are. I've seen them. I've seen, you see that kind of thing of, you see all the merchandise, you see them, all the things, and you see them in the trailers and stuff. And then you sit there and go, yeah, I don't actually know. Because I'm there thinking, I recognize that guy's voice. And I'm thinking, obviously, from Elf. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. And then it was like kind of moving on from there. And, then we had this like weird, well, he wasn't a kangaroo because he was the size of a mouse. So I don't know what he was. But I don't know. It was just a strange little movie. And then like, kind of got to the end and went, okay. It had a very simple rescue the kid, they rescued him, and then he rescues the bird, but he ends up kind of end up getting out with him. And I thought that worked out all right. I definitely enjoyed this one a little bit more than we did for the Great Mouse Detective. I'll be honest, that was another one that we did recently. Very much in the average territory. I think kids are going to like it. I thought the animation. I know there's some great opening scenes with the going over the like Sydney, and I enjoyed the bird aspect. And it was kind of like, I'm glad it was a short movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I didn't dislike it. It was very much, obviously with the stereotypes and stuff. Okay, I know where you're going. I can see what you're doing. But that was the only thing really was that stood out to me. I was like, okay, very simple, very average. Nothing really blew me away. But I at least can remember it a little bit of
Yeah.
it. Whereas, so that was my one thing of it. I wasn't. It was that kind of odd, strange thing with this one. Going, oh yeah, no, I can. This one's very much in that weird thing of like this is just not strong enough to be around. And of course, this was right after what Little Mermaid and just
Yeah.
before Beauty and the Beast. It was right in that I think of like being surrounded by two amazing movies, and
Yeah.
this one just got like lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, this is the forgotten film of the Disney Renaissance because it's not a musical, and
Yeah,
between Little Mermaid and Tarzan, they all have the same formula for making the movies, and most of them
yeah,
are really good, even if are the same formula. Whereas this one is kind of it's different. It's honestly, it's my favorite sequel from Disney main studios. I enjoyed it more than Frozen 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet. So
yeah.
but
It's yeah,
I can see the issues. I've never been to Australia. I'd love to go someday.
mm,
My exposure to Australia, my wife got really big into Australian TV a few years ago. Most Americans get into British TV. She got into Australian TV. So I can't complain. Some of the shows are really good.
yeah.
Um, but
We would start binging Married at First Sight Australia. We've been watching it for weeks as long. I think it's just that kind of weird thing. Like I said, it's like looking at it back on it now. Of apparently it had a major problem with it came out and they essentially it didn't do as well as they wanted, so they like instantly like pulled like the advertising campaign for it and stuff, and it kind of because it just didn't do as well as they wanted. And I kind of looking at this here now of just kind of because it was only fourth behind Home Alone and Rocky 4 and Child's Play 2, and well below the studio's expectation. And then they decided to pull all their television advertising, so it really did drop. I mean, it pulled in like 47 million worldwide at the time, and that just shows you the fact that it didn't make a strong debut. I mean, to be honest, it's going up against Home Alone. Ironically, they didn't realize that they would own Home Alone. So it wasn't a
yeah,
problem. But
yeah,
yeah,
Disney's
obviously,
gonna own everything
yeah,
when it's done.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they'll soon have Rocky and everybody else, but it's that kind of weird thing again of the instant reaction of it didn't perform, cut off funding,
Yeah.
and you can see now of just like even with movies today, you know, if they aren't sure of it, they don't invest in it. They don't invest in something until they know it's a sure hit.
I remember referencing the Waking Sleeping Beauty documentary that's on Disney
Yeah,
Plus. To talk about it was the first fully digitally animated film. Instead of being hand drawn, they actually got in and did the drawing on computer. It was still 2D animated instead of
yeah,
the 3D that we know today, but it was kind of the forerunner for that. So it broke ground in animation.
yeah,
So a lot of what we love today we owe to it.
yeah,
So it has its place, but it gets lost because you have it's surrounded by, like I said, surrounded by Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, with those soundtracks by Ashman and Menken are difficult. Basically, anything Alan Menken does is going to have great music.
yeah,
We lost Howard Ashman in the early '90s, and we imagine what he could have done going forward.
yeah,
So it does feel lost because it's released in a time of musicals with no real music. I mean, it's got a score, it's got a really good
yeah,
score, but no sounds, no bangers on a soundtrack.
yeah. It's really funny of like I said of like going back and picking. These ones get thrown up, and picking out some movies and stuff that we've just not seen, not and maybe are less talked about because yeah, we could, we could do Beauty and the Beast. But that one's so well known. It is just nice to use the Disney Plus library to kind
Yeah.
of get access to these movies that you maybe necessarily wouldn't see. I definitely think, like, if your kids try these kind of things out, rather than just letting them watch Frozen 2 and Moana consistently,
Yeah.
because say, look, okay, look, we're gonna have a change up. Well, let's watch a different movie this week. Give them, I mean, even if you just made them watch one different movie of the 50, 60 animated movies a year, that would nicely round up and get through it that way. I mean, that would be, I think, just a way of showing them something else rather than. But I don't know if kids will. I don't know if. I mean, are kids going to connect with this one now? I mean, the animation is very ropey. The kids might see straight through it. I don't think it's strong enough. If I was only going to show like my nephew, this wouldn't be a one I'd kind of get him off on the younger ones. I'd, maybe
Yeah.
try something maybe like Jungle Book or something a bit shorter, brighter with music to kind of keep him going.
Right.
I don't know if I would straight away.
Yeah,
What about you?
it makes reviewing them so much better too. Because Beauty and the Beast. All right, what are we can say that hasn't already been said? It's a great movie.
Yeah,
5 stars. Move on.
yeah. It's kind of this one here. I would give it. I'd probably give it a 3. It's very average, very run of the mill. Doesn't really necessarily push any buttons, but it's not dreadful. I didn't sit.
No,
It's
it's
not like
not.
sitting there going. Not sitting there going. Oh, that was awful. I didn't enjoy it. It's like, I'm sitting there going, I'm glad I've seen it. I'm really glad I took the time out to watch it, and I'm really glad I don't view it as a wasted time. And sometimes you watch some of these movies and go, oh God, that was tough. That
Oh,
was
we'll be
tough
talking about
reading.
one of those soon.
Yeah, we'll have one about White Fang that we'll be talking about, which is a bit more tricky. But yeah,
but
as far as kind of finishing off with the Rescues Down Under, what is your closing thoughts?
Yeah. For ranking for Rescuers Down Under, it was probably 3.5. I agree that it doesn't hold up as well as I loved it as a kid, but it was still a good time. Maybe the movies being shorter help
Yeah,
in that sense, but I enjoyed it. I would recommend I would recommend people try to watch The Rescuers as well
mm.
and compare the two, because I know a lot of people who are like, I love The Rescuers, and then when they start describing it to me, I'm like, you're describing The Rescuers Down Under. This is the one
Well,
people tend to remember.
yeah. Well, this that ironic thing about how many people have done it, because it doesn't necessarily. I mean, there's a reason why Disney tend to put numbers in stuff.
Hmm.
If you didn't know, you could easily just The Rescuers Down Under. Okay,
Yep.
And in some way, there's not really a they just appear and there's a group of people and they're all going down there and you're going, okay, we've been summoned down here, and you kind of that's it. That's enough.
Yeah.
It
Kind of need
was
to
enough
know
to
that there's basically a mouse UN, which they established in the first one.
yeah. It kind of you didn't necessarily even question it. Like, okay, they're being rescued by some mice. Okay, they haven't got any agents in Australia. But no, nevertheless, let us know in the comments below what you think of Rescuers Down Under. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember to go check us out over at what's on at disneyplus.com. You can help support the channel on Patreon and YouTube channel members, where they get access to these episodes a little bit earlier than everybody else. They also get to pick out these movies as well that we're going to check out, so you can do that as well. And on that note, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We should see you guys soon. Later.
Bye.